Welcome back to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Unfortunately, no Jacob Colshaw today, but we've got a stellar lineup with Sam Yuko back. How's it going, Sam?
All good, thank you, Charlie. Not much to complain about on a football front at the moment, which is always nice. I feel like it's the first time in a long time on the channel I've been able to say that.
I'm sure you'll find something to moan about. We'll see how we go. And we're lucky enough to be joined by Watford observers, Adam Drury. Adam, have a good New Year. What did you get up to?
To be honest, a lot of going to Watford matches and writing up reaction and previews and so on. It's not really been a very restful festive period, but yeah, happy days makes life much easier when Watford are winning, and yeah, some good stuff to talk about, I think.
Yeah, Watford winning all the way through the new year, which is great. We have got our Heart for the Mind campaign still going. In December, it was 11 goals for the Hornets. Already scored 3 in January, so hopefully we'll get more than 11. But if you guys want to join in donating £1 for every Watford goal, the link will be in the description. And we'll be carrying on that campaign. Hopefully that builds. Today's video, we're going to be talking a bit about Norwich because we haven't spoken to you guys since then. More detail about Birmingham and talk a bit about transfers. You guys were both at Norwich. Sam, first of all, what did you think of the performance?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting one, wasn't it? I think most Watford fans after 85 minutes would have come away and gone, do you know what, with the amount of games we're playing at the moment, with Watford doing relatively well, a 0-0 draw would probably have been a relatively okay result, I think, in the context of things going on at the moment. But the fact that we were able to smash and grab it was absolutely brilliant and crucial for us. Another clean sheet on the road. I thought it was a tired performance from Watford. I was quite surprised, and we'll go on to the Birmingham team selection as well. The lack of rotation from Javi. I thought we'd see a few changes in there just to keep things fresh. And I think that really showed that at times I thought the team just looked a little bit leggy. Not their fault, of course. It's just the way that the fixtures lie. And I thought we did well to keep Norwich at arm's length, really. They didn't really get near us. I'm not sure what you thought, Adam, but in the ground, it felt like Norwich had a lot of the ball, but never really threatened us at any real moments. I mean, Mark Bowler had a shot off the line, and I think Sargent had a couple of sighters, but it was relatively comfortable for us in the end. And yeah, delighted that we were able to get that win.
Yeah, I agree. It was very scrappy, really. Watford actually started really well. The first 25 minutes, half an hour was sort of a continuation from Leicester. But then, yeah, it went tired, scrappy, very few chances. Pollock had one header saved about 10 minutes from the end. But I think that the sort of key takeaway from a Watford point of view in how we got the win was the strength we had to bring off the bench. Basically had Irankunda to bring on, who was fresh, rapid, and yeah, could just run way quicker than anybody else on the pitch in that moment and set up a winning goal, which is probably something, if you look back to a year ago, or certainly like towards the end of last season, we didn't have. So I think that was the big takeaway for me from what was a very scrappy game. But at least scrappy away games are better than where we have been away from home so far this season. Like, we're turning away games into matches where we're not dominated, not giving up many chances, and that obviously gives you a chance, which we took in the end.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how much of a smash and grab it was. We had Ince's chance in the first half, which was a pretty decent effort considering the distance he was from goal. Max Elaine and Matty Pollock were having a shooting practice on the edge of the area when Max hit the post. And obviously that goal at the end, it just looked like two tired teams. Sam, what was the away end like when Semedo scuffed that one in off a couple of Norwich players?
Oh, unbelievable. It took like a second or two for me to sort of realise that the ball had gone in, because it was just bouncing around a couple of deflections before it rolled in. But yeah, unbelievable scenes. And I'll give my hot take now, Charlie, because I think I actually mentioned it to you the other day. But if I look back on, and I'm terrified of jinxing it here, but if I look back on our last couple of promotion seasons, there's always been that moment where everyone's sort of looked up and gone, all right, like, we mean business now. And the last one particularly, I think it was probably Adam Messina's last minute free kick away at Cardiff. I think from that moment we really believed. In 14-15, I'd probably say a bit different circumstances, but that 5-0 win away at Fulham, people started taking us seriously after that. I think if something does happen in this Watford season, I do think it'll be this Norwich game and that last minute winner that we look back on and go, that was the moment where things really clicked into place. And I know it's been 4 in a row and we'd won. That was our 3rd win in a row, of course. But I think it was that game specifically, the manner of it. 6 months ago, Watford lose that game. I've got no doubt about that in my mind. But it's a team, I think, that's shown real maturity now, imposing themselves physically. They're buying into the shape. And I think we'll look back on this game at the end of the season. If something comes of this season, go, that was the moment.
The away end looked so good. I was pretty jealous. I usually so I do the live blog and I'm usually like straight into goal, but I was like, I'm going to take a couple of seconds to look up and watch it properly. It was quality. But yeah, I agree with Sam. Like the maturity to find a way to win matches is something which I've definitely questioned at times this season. So good signs that we can come out on the right side of these types of matches.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't seen, go on Adam's Twitter and check out the video from his view watching the Watford away. And I know it's been picked up a couple of places, but fair play to all the Hornets who travelled down to see that win. Another win. We're going to glaze over it like it's another routine, but we'll get into more detail about Birmingham. Birmingham starting at 11, Adam, one change, a Banqua. Are you surprised about, I mean, I remember when Javi came in and one of the remits was more consistency in the team lineup. He's definitely stuck to that, hasn't he? Are you surprised how much minutes all the team have played in the last, 2 weeks?
Yeah, massively. Like, it's a huge U-turn, as you say. I feel like the story of the season until about 3 weeks ago was how we couldn't find a settled 11 and we didn't know exactly what we were going to see week to week. And now we know exactly what we're going to see, probably more than we expected to. I was with Sam. I thought they looked tired at Norwich towards the end. We spoke to Georgie afterwards and he was absolutely knackered, like almost falling asleep standing up. And I was thinking there's no way he's starting in 3 days. But I think actually, if you look back at Javi last time, like there was quite a set 11, wasn't there, which you could sort of reel off. He likes to do that, and that seems to be the formula he's found now. But yeah, I expected Semedo to start. I expected Irankunda to start. I thought Mendy might start in midfield as well. And then, yeah, expected a Banqua to start at right back, which was the only change. But it sort of feels now, and I know I'm jumping ahead too far, but I don't think we'll see changes at Hull now. I think he's settled on this team, and we're just running with it because of the confidence and momentum they have. But yeah, I was pretty surprised he rolled out the same 11. But I guess also the players who made the big difference off the bench at Norwich, like they made the difference off the bench. And maybe he's thinking like having those guys to bring on when everybody's completely shattered in the second half makes more sense than starting them.
Yeah, I want to talk about, I know obviously Quadra Bar came on, which I think was a lot earlier than all of us expected in his recovery, but I thought James Banqua was outstanding. I thought he had a real point to prove, and he applied himself really well in the game, really aggressive kind of in his 1v1s and played it simple and showed good turn of pace whenever we did get turned. But we've got to talk about Mr. Thomas Christopher Ince, Sam, my favourite player. Do you want to talk through the goals?
Oh, wow. I mean, Ince has been really good in these last few weeks. And I think there's an argument there to say that for this system to work, with this new system to work, you are relying quite a bit on Ince to do that tucking in job to make us really compact. And that his off-the-ball work is, I think, the main reason why he's in the team. So I don't think anyone would have really thought that the impact that he'd have with goals and winning the game for us against Birmingham would be as big as it was. But yeah, I think what you saw with Ince there was 3 finishes, 3 runs, and that showed his experience and his know-how and patience as well at times as well. Particularly that first goal, we'll start off with that, but that's the quality that Georgie Shaftatse brings. Firstly, that ball into the box was absolutely ridiculous, I think, and Ince to have that calmness and composure just to tuck it in, tuck it away was absolutely perfect. I mean, Adam, because me and Charlie were behind the goal in the Rookery, your view of it from the press box in the Elton John, that view of Georgie's pass must have been phenomenal, surely.
Yeah. It's a lovely vision as well to see the run, and the run was really well timed. I would imagine from a Birmingham perspective, they're asking why he had so much time to pick out a pass like 30 yards out. But yeah, you're right. Lovely dinked pass, and the finish as well is very like because I think he said afterwards he had a sort of similar-ish chance at Norwich, the one that he put wide, a little bit different, but yeah, the composure and the technique to sort of cushion that into the corner was really nice.
Just before we talk about the other goals, and like I was actually surprised by that Georgie pass, because I see like as his super strength is the dribbling and ability to move the ball, and that was like an Imran loser pass for me. And I think Georgie had another moment when we were breaking away in the first half, and I thought he mistimed his pass and he put Ince at too much of an angle where a better pass Ince could have had a second and could have maybe gone on to get 4. But before we talk about the other goals, Adam, what have you made about the kind of Ince's role? Because I was talking before the game about how important I felt he's been, but more as a defensive player. And I've looked at him like a centre midfielder. That doesn't kind of tell the story of the Birmingham game, because I think when we've broken away, he's been in the thick of it. But what do you think's changed, especially kind of that, maybe the Wrexham game and especially the last 3 games? Because it's not a 4-4-2 like we were seeing, was it?
Yeah, I think the Wrexham game was a bit of a turning point, even though it didn't end happily that day. Defended a little bit better, and I think the role Kayembe played that day was actually the start of the position that Ince has been playing over Christmas, which is a sort of tucked in wide player. So we talked a lot in the games before that about the amount of space that was being left in midfield, particularly between the midfield and the back 4. And by tucking one of your wide players in, and then you've got Kyprianou and Louza basically taking it in turns to sit even deeper, we've just looked way more solid. And I think the thing for Ince is that he's actually, and Marma as a result, they're swapping wings in basically every game. So I think at Leicester, Ince was on the left, Marma on the right, and then at Norwich, Marma over to the left, and then against Birmingham, Marma back to the right again. And that's basically because Ince gets asked to play on the side where more defending needs to be done. So at Leicester, it was Ricardo Pereira played at right back, so Ince played left midfield and sort of followed him inside. So yeah, it's considering we're talking about him scoring a hat-trick and making a big difference in the final third, he's actually in the team. He's playing in a position where it's being thought of as a defensive position, like that. He's playing on the side where he has to do more defending. So yeah, he talked afterwards about like he doesn't want to be known as sort of a clogger who's like a 7 out of 10 defensive wide player who doesn't do anything exciting. I think he was quite pleased to have a day where people talk about him as a fun attacking player because he's aware of how many others there are. But yeah, I think he probably wouldn't have got this run in the team if Kayembe hadn't gone to AFCON, because I think this was Kayembe's position. But the pecking order's probably swapped round now.
Yeah, no, I think that Wrexham game, you're right. There was a shift. And if you look at Dumbia's role in that game, he felt
Dumbia, 100%.
He was that number 10. And that's where you've seen Georgie. And Georgie against Birmingham was kind of here, there, and everywhere. Again, similar to especially that Leicester game. There was one moment where he was just hanging out on the left, and Ince was more like the second striker. But it just feels like a lot. I felt like against Birmingham, we were a lot more solid structurally. Like where I watched a 4-4-2, it looked like if one person drew us out, they could easily find the middle. But now it looks like we're really hard to get through. Sam, what did you like about the second goal? Another assist for, well, I don't know if you count it for assists for fantasy money, but Marmon does brilliantly on the right. It doesn't matter if he's on the right, on the left. And again, we've seen it cut back to Ince, or as you're calling him now, Incey.
Incey, yeah.
Scored, but yeah, what do you think about second? How do you think Marma's been doing recently?
Yeah, Marma's been absolutely fantastic throughout this period. And again, he's playing so many games in such a short amount of time. Someone who only came into the team, really, was it November time, end of October? Before I can't even, I've lost, there's been too many games. I've lost track of who's coming when, and when Marma was off at the at the World Cup for the under-20s. And yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. I think he had a bit, ironically, he did really well for that second goal, but I did think he had a bit of a quieter game, and I don't think he's as impactful on that right-hand side where he was playing. Was he on the left or the right?
He was on the right.
On the right, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's as impactful then necessarily as he is on the left, particularly when he's got time to come inside. I think he's a lot more powerful on that left-hand side, but yeah, he did really, really well to get the ball in. A good effort from Ince. When I mentioned now about the maturity, it was the way that he was able just to almost telegraph the blocked shot or the saved shot initially, and be ready for the rebound to put it away. Which was, I think, a sign of his experience and the know-how of where to be when that shot comes out. So, a really good goal that I think typified again the effort of this Watford side and every player out there, even the flair players who you wouldn't necessarily think would, not have good games in this period, but might struggle with the number of games that we're playing.
The thing with Marma as well is he made his debut at Ipswich, which I think was like the start of November, so 2 months ago. We've seen in that time Irankunda started one match. Bar was sort of didn't feel like Javi was like rushing to get him into the team, but Marma was playing virtually every game, and I think that's to do with his maturity, how he defends, like understanding things tactically as well. Because Javi wouldn't be picking him if he didn't have all that side to his game, and we'll probably come on to it, but I'm sure that's why big clubs are watching him as well, because he's not just a like bag of tricks winger, but he seems to have the all-round game, and he's only been playing in the Championship for 2 months.
Have you had any interactions with him, Adam? And have you been
No.
surprised about his? Because, like you said, he is literally come from that World Cup performance, and although a lot of big players have won it, we were talking about potentially when we signed him, he might be going out on loan. And I think Pezzolano said, no, he might be good enough, but as Watford fans, we thought he might be another Peñaranda, but he's certainly not that, is he?
Yeah, I think when he first signed, he was, because Watford managed to get him very cheaply because Montpellier were relegated. It was sort of seen as opportunistic rather than a signing in a position of need. And then, as time's gone on, I think they quite quickly realised how good he was, and then he's got his fitness up and been to the World Cup and come back from there an even better player. I think he is, like, in the way he is at the training ground and stuff, still how you'd expect a 20-year-old kid to be, like a lot of joking, pranking, like a fun young guy, like lots of them are. But when he plays, just seems to turn into this really mature player who knows which decisions to take at the right time, very switched on tactically. So, I think what's impressive is that he almost plays with a maturity that certainly like impressive for his age, and even in his character, you wouldn't necessarily think he's going to be like this really, really mature wide player, which he is. So, I've never spoken to him. I don't think his English is like fantastic, but clearly like very popular with his teammates, and I think almost from the day he signed was like a real a lot of fun on the training ground, and a bit of a prankster and all that sort of thing. So interesting character, but very mature player as well.
I think you referenced it slightly there, Adam, but is there a feeling that he's ahead of schedule, so to speak?
Yeah,
did anyone really think that he'd be starting at this point?
Yeah, well, Valon Berami spoke about it the other week and said basically they never doubt talent. Like, they know they're bringing in talented players, but it's actually the maturity to like want to get better and want to improve, but also like be playing game after game after game relentlessly, which they didn't expect that he would be able to hit this level consistently week after week, which I think is probably as I said before, like from a character perspective, like you don't know how someone's going to behave when they're playing all the time. And then he said the next step is now he's going to be a marked man. He's going to be someone who opposition are actually looking at and focusing on stopping, which we've probably started to see a little bit more in the last few weeks already. So that's the next step. But certainly like as a regular starter week after week, this wasn't expected, particularly with the number of wingers as well. Like, obviously we've had players injured, but I think if you'd said in the summer Marma is playing regularly and Bar, Vata, Irankunda aren't, that would be a surprise.
We had the conversation, Sam, didn't we? I feel like we have it every season, and we're probably recency biased every single time, but which of our previous wonder kids has had the best impact at the start, whether it's João Pedro, Yasser Esprilla, Richarlison? What did we come to the conclusion? João Pedro or Marma impact?
Yeah, I fear with this sort of thing, recency bias is always going to have a big influence on it. But I think, the way that Marma and João Pedro, I see a lot of similarities there with the way that both of them took to the Championship like a duck to water, pretty much, and straight away hit the ground running. I actually think Marma's role being slightly different, maybe even puts him a tiny bit ahead of João Pedro, and the way that he's had to adapt to the physicality of the league and the number of games as well. In a potentially a bit more of a role with more responsibility in there than João Pedro had. Yeah, while we saw more wow moments from João Pedro, I think the all-round game of Marma might even be slightly ahead of him. But yeah, it's difficult to say. We can enjoy all of them, you know.
Richarlison was a pretty fast impact as well, wasn't he, in the Premier League?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There are definitely similarities with Pedro, though. Like, what you hear about Pedro is that, you know, if he got kicked in training or fouled, he wouldn't roll around complaining. He'd just want to get up and kick you back and show he was the main man. And I sort of see that in Marma, like a little bit of the street fighter attitude as well, which, yeah, will definitely serve him well.
Exciting times, always good. Let's talk about another wonder kid, Nestori Irankunda, who came on for Georgie at half-time versus Birmingham. I thought that was probably one of his best games in the Watford shirt. I thought he was untouchable, unplayable. He sets up Ince's hat-trick with, I think, what do you have? One or two like bursts right through the middle of Birmingham's back line, set it on a plate for Ince or Ince. Sam, what did you think of Irankunda's cameo? Can you call it a cameo? A bit more than cameo.
I think, I think we're going all football cliches here. I'd say a whole second half appearance is probably longer than a cameo, I would say. But I know he's earlier in the season, he had that week where he scored those 2 free kicks away at Swansea and at home to Southampton. I actually think this week has probably been Irankunda's biggest week so far this season. I think he's a player who, I mean, I think we've seen it as well with the way that he's been playing. His confidence would have taken a big hit. I think it was ever since he was subbed off by Paolo Pezzolano in that, was it the first half away at Portsmouth or early in the second half? And I think ever since then, I know the manager's changed. He's never really looked the same lively Irankunda that we saw in those first few games. And I think it shows as well, like we've spoken about with Kyprianou quite a bit, that they are young players and we are going to have to be patient at times when they have expected dipper forms. It's completely normal. But Irankunda, yeah, I think this week, whatever's Javi's said to him, whoever's put an arm around him, we've seen a huge transformation this week. Someone playing with confidence, someone who seems to be playing a lot more, finding within themselves what they're good at as well, in terms of having that pace and that power that he's got and realizing it again. And yeah, to set up that final goal from Nestori was brilliant. It was Irankunda who set up Ince's final goal, wasn't it? The pass out wide. And he could have had another couple of assists or goal involvements as well. So yeah, I think the confidence that he's playing with, I actually think these last couple of games have been huge for Irankunda. Yeah, Adam, I'm not sure what you think, or if you've spoken to him, but his confidence did seem to take a bit of a knock in the last couple of months, didn't it, since that Portsmouth game?
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, with young players, it's learning how to be disciplined footballers that are ready to play week after week, a bit like what I was saying with Marma. So I think there were a couple of little disciplinary things that flared up under Paolo, which led to that first half substitution. And he's just had to learn, and combining that with, so he started very well in August. Obviously the free kicks, papering over the cracks would definitely be wrong, but like the free kicks were what won him the headlines, and the performances were good to go with them. But he probably set the bar higher than was reasonably, we could reasonably expect him to keep. So he's then flown to Australia, or I think one of them was to US and Canada 3 times for international duty since August, which I think definitely disrupted his rhythm in August when he came back for September. He's then gone twice more and then gone home again in December. So I think it has just been one of those things where he set the bar very high. Probably confidence is more likely to crash as a result of having been higher. Jet lag, lost his rhythm, lost his place in the team. But it's probably what I think when he signed, that's what I would have expected to happen. I didn't expect him to have like a huge impact straight away. And in a way, he did too much too soon. So I'm sure, I think they really like playing for Javi, like his man management, the way he talks to young players, the way he works with them, puts his arm around them. mean, I asked Javi about it the other day, and he was very like self-deprecating and said, "It's not me, it's him. It's just getting the skills out of him that we know he has already." But yeah, definitely a lot of arm around the shoulder, man management gone on behind the scenes, and there's been the odd sub cameo where he's come on and looked good, but possibly that moment at Norwich where he's just had that like oomph to go for it and take on his man and beat him and set up the winner has unlocked something inside him, because I mean, I agree with Charlie. I thought he was absolutely untouchable in the second half, and Birmingham were leaving space on the counter attack, which suited him more. But that burst away to set up Ince is, I don't know how you defend that when someone's running into space like that. So exciting times. He still can't get in the best 11. I would imagine he'll be on the bench again on Sunday, but yeah, I think, and again, I've mentioned it with Marma, like with young players, it's going to be almost riding the crest of the wave with all of them. We can't expect them all to have really strong 3 or 4 month periods. It might be that a month at a time, they all have their moment. So you've had Vata had his moment in November. We had Irankunda early in the season. We've now had Marma. Maybe Bar will be next, or I think Vata's going to be back soon. So it's going to be ensuring that enough of them are flying at once. So yeah, that's why it's exciting to have 4 or 5 of these players in the squad at the same time.
It's great to see Irankunda in the full-time whistle when the fans were singing his name, and he very much wears his heart on his sleeve. Even when he has been playing poorly, you can see the body language and the disappointment if he misplaces a pass or it doesn't go his way. But he was lapping it up when the fans were singing his name, which is great to see. So hopefully he's going to be making an impact. Imagine opposition teams having to look at Irankunda and Bar coming off the bench, which is what Birmingham had to see. Sam, was there any other players that you wanted to pick out for the Birmingham performance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it again because I feel like I'm saying it every game now, but Max Elaine is just absolutely phenomenal. And I think having that partnership now with Matty Pollock over these last few games has been another big reason why we've hit this run of form. Just a fantastic player, isn't he? You can see that the way that he's come through the Man City academy, his football IQ is absolutely fantastic. And I think as well, he's growing with the physicality of the league as well. I remember his debut was Charlton away on the first game of the season. He came on 87th, 88th minute, and we conceded very soon after. And I remember questioning the decision to bring him on, not because he did anything wrong in that game necessarily, but I remember just thinking he did not look physically up for it at all in this league. It was it might have been his first ever senior game as well, having come through the Man City under 21s or Man City B, whatever they call them in the Premier League. But yeah, he's getting more and more, learning more and more about the physicality of the league by the game, and that partnership with Matty is superb. As I think Ali Maxwell said on Not the Top 20, you let Matty do the meat and potatoes, and Max Elaine do the fancier stuff. So yeah, he's been brilliant. Yeah,
we were talking about like that gap we were leaving between midfield and defence as well, like how aggressive those two are, but they're just making better decisions. Like if you remember Birmingham away, when it was just a complete mess with players diving in and being beaten, and like now I think particularly with Elaine, like he just reads it so well, where even if that gap exists, like he steps into it to fill it just at the right moment. So yeah, Sam's taken the words out of my mouth. I would have picked out Elaine as well. I think he just looks like a quality player. And I don't know if there were any concerns at the Man City end when he wasn't getting in the team, but I would hope now that they're pretty pleased with how he's getting on.
Yeah, the other player as well, sorry Charlie, that I'd want to give a mention to here is almost a mini redemption arc in the middle of the season over the 6 games since we last played Birmingham. If you think back to when we played them at the start of December, Hector Cipriano had a really struggled in that game, having had a really good start to the season. He had a few wobbly weeks and then had a really poor game at Birmingham away when he then came out of the team. But since he's come back in, I think he's been another big reason why we've seen this switch in form. He's been a lot more aggressive again, I found, and has been able to sweep up at the back really well, particularly when the other team are in transition. And I thought he was exceptional again, Cipriano. So a little redemption arc in the middle of the season if you look at what he was last time against Birmingham, against what we saw the other day.
Just on Max Elaine, I know, Sam, we were talking before, and we might be jumping to the transfer bit, but Adam, do you think there's any scope for Max Elaine? Was it just a season-long loan? Do you think there's a possibility that it could be another loan? We've seen like that with Caleb Wiley, or do you think he's too good and he'll be playing in the Premier League next season?
Next season?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably depends on what happens with Watford as well. But I know that there was interest, I think, from Bundesliga teams possibly in signing him permanently in the last year or so. So I think as good as he's been, we'd probably all agree that it's really difficult to break into the Man City first team. Like, you've got to be like Phil Foden level to do it. So he probably won't do that. So I would imagine the next step for him is to move permanently somewhere, probably for quite a lot of money. So if Watford were to have a chance of signing him permanently, I don't know, how much would you say? Like 10 million, around 10 million maybe to sign him?
I was thinking this, but at the same time, I know he was captain as well. Elaine was in a successful Man City academy side. We played Norwich last week, who had Jacob Wright, who was also really highly rated in that Man City academy, and Norwich signed him for 2.5 million. I don't think we'd get Elaine for as cheap as that, but I don't think it's going to be. I'd be surprised if Elaine was worth more than 5 at this moment in time. To be honest,
I think we'd struggle to sign him permanently in the Championship.
I think that's fair.
But yeah, I could be wrong. I think I don't know if you saw what he said the other week, but he spoke quite well about like not wanting involvement from Man City at all while he was at Watford. He basically said to them, like, I'm joining Watford for the season and I want to play for them. I don't want to be like a Man City player who happens to be at Watford for a bit. So he's definitely like all in, fully committed. But I'd be surprised if anyone's thinking too strongly about next season yet.
He's brilliant. And that atmosphere, Sam, for Birmingham, I think, just one thing on Max Elaine. I did think against Norwich, I did think Josh Sargent gave him a tough game, like his movement and stuff like that. So there's obviously room to grow, but Josh Sargent is one of the best strikers in the Championship. So back to Birmingham. Sam, I thought there was something different in the atmosphere. Obviously, it's New Year's Day off the back of 3 wins in the row. I felt like the ground was a lot more packed. First time I've heard singing in the concourse at half-time. Obviously, the game state of leading, and you've been to the away end for most of these games, and Adam, you've been there, but is there momentum, is there belief building within the fan base, something that we haven't seen for years now?
I think definitely that momentum is something I haven't, the feeling at least now is something I haven't seen at Vicarage Road or at Watford games, probably since the first Rob Edwards' first 3 games, after we first came down, we beat Sheffield United at home, we drew at West Brom with Sar's halfway line goal, and then we beat Burnley at home. And there was a really good feeling after those 3 games before everything spectacularly unravelled. And we haven't really seen it stop unravelling until the last few weeks, basically, to be honest with you, in terms of having that consistency. We finally found it. And I think the fans are really noticing now that something special is happening. I did think in the last half an hour or so against Birmingham, it did go a little bit flat. But I think game state, the game was done really. And yeah, but you can see, I think the attendances are slowly going up again. The atmosphere is getting better. Away games, I think, even though for the vast majority of that game against Norwich, it was 0-0, I think most fans were happy with the performance and could see it. I think the big difference for me, if I'm just talking about Norwich as well, as you can see, the effort levels are never in question. I think with this Watford team, you can see there's always 110% being given there. And I think that as a foundation, you'll always get fans on side. And we haven't seen that on a consistent basis, I don't think, for a long, long time. So, yeah, I think the fans are on side, and we're seeing that now in the atmosphere and in the attendances.
I think we're playing the type of football that gets people excited as well. So it's not, we were talking before about the sideways and backwards chant from the Birmingham end. Like, I'm not downplaying that style of football. Like, there's perfectly reasonable style of football to play, but Watford are playing football where they don't need the ball to look like they could score in the next 20 seconds. That was my biggest takeaway from the Birmingham game, is even when they had the ball in our final third, felt like Watford were, if you said there was going to be a goal in the next 30 seconds, felt like Watford were more likely to score it. Just with the speed and physicality in attack. It's the kind of football that, gets supporters off their seats, I think, particularly it's definitely a thing that Watford play better football shooting towards the rookery as well. Like a lot better, I'm sure. It happened a lot last season, obviously, when first halves were just like nothing, and then we come out in the second half and play a lot better. Seems to have continued this season as well. And some of the counter-attacking on against Birmingham was, so good. And the players coming off the bench as well, and just like using their strength, their speed. It's football that will get people excited. So I think that's a big part of why people are looking forward to watching Watford play at the moment.
I would like to send a public apology, and sorry I ever doubted Javi Gracia, but when we were playing that 4-4-2 rigid, I just thought we were nicking results, but I just thought we were so easy to play against, and I was worried that he was going to kind of stick to that. And I think I even mentioned, would he kind of see out the season, knowing what Watford are like? But since that Wrexham game, he's adapted. Adam, tell us about the impact he's made. And I think a lot of the narrative might be, he's just such a great guy. He's got great man management, which is what kind of Paolo, it was perceived that he lacked. Do you think he's a bit underrated in terms of tactically as a coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think he is like totally obsessed with tactics and how his team's going to set up. I mean, he talks about like the long coach journeys to away games where he just sits there like on his laptop, like obsessively moving things around and watching clips and working things out. But I think what top coaches do is that they have all that stuff going on in their head, but then when they talk to the players, they make it quite simple and make it quite easy and make them allow them to enjoy it. So I do think with the quality of the players, the man management side has been massive. So I know like Rocco Vata was definitely one who like really took to him straight away. I think Javi probably identified the players who were finding it difficult before and was just like straight away arm around them, going to work with you, working extra hours afterwards, making a connection with these young players. I know Rocco was one who like absolutely loves him, and I think you're seeing that with a few of the others as well. It's funny because that 4-4, I agree, the 4-4-2, I didn't really like it, and I couldn't really understand why, as someone who's so tactically astute, why he was sticking with it. And he did have reasons. He talked about wanting two up front because he likes that box presence when balls come into the box, but maybe Georgie coming back to fitness, and I think probably the way that the home games against Norwich and Sheffield Wednesday went, where we've just like, and Preston as well, just like too vulnerable, too much space. He's obviously thought through how he can kind of stick to a similar kind of system but shore it up. I think, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out. Like, you can look at his Wikipedia page. His pedigree is probably above where Watford are now. He's managed Valencia. He's managed Watford and Leeds in the Premier League. He's won titles in other countries. I think we're probably pretty lucky that his connection with Watford means he was happy to come back and coach us. And we're seeing now what a class act he is, I think.
Sam, are you surprised? Because I think when he got appointed, and just the usual what happens when a Watford manager gets sacked in Paolo and the mood around the place, are you surprised that he's had this much of an impact, or should we have expected it from his first spell? I mean, it's one defeat in 13 now, which is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I am surprised, but not because of Javi's capabilities. I just, and I don't want to bring the ownership into it. I just do feel that it's so difficult to work in the environment that Watford is on a day-to-day basis and on a wider scale as well. I'm surprised in that regard, but maybe I wrote Javi off maybe to his own, not his own detriment, but I said after we were recording in Junction Cafe, after I can't remember which game it was, but I said this is only lasting a few more weeks. If he sticks with this 4-4-2, he won't last. And to his credit, he's changed it. He's shown that he can, that he is able to change his system and be adaptable as well. So yeah, huge credit to Javi for that. And I'm not the only one who said this, Charlie, but 4, 5, 6 games ago, I said to you that I was feeling a bit meh with Watford. So, I was going purely for the social element of it. I don't want to say I'd fallen out of love with it, because I've spent way too much money in the last few years on going to pretty much every single game. I'm going tomorrow morning to Hull in what is going to be an absolutely freezing afternoon, I think. But I just didn't really feel the connection. I did feel it a bit with Tom Cleverley, but the way that it worked under with Paolo and some of the uninspiring performances we saw at the start with Javi, I was just feeling a bit, I don't know, not invested. But now I'm fully invested again, and yeah, makes a big difference when there's something to fight for, I think, which there will be this season.
It's definitely like, as Sam said, like there's no doubt it can be a difficult club to manage. Like you only need to look at the turnover of coaches to see that. Like this isn't an easy job. And so there's something in the way he is, the relationships he builds, that like it just works for him. And it almost felt when he came back like it was putting something right, which should never have been put wrong in the first place quite a few years ago, because he's been the one coach who's really, I think, made it work and yeah, gets it, for want of a better phrase. So yeah, I think, listen, we're talking after 4 straight wins, and that's not going to carry on forever. But at the moment, it feels like, yeah, we're quite fortunate to have him.
Like you said, 4 straight wins. I think we're up to 4th in the Championship. Adam, you've seen a few promotion teams. With the mood around the camp and the form Watford are in and the state of the league this year, because I do think the quality is a lot less. Out of 10, what are your promotion hopes? How are you feeling? What are your spidey senses telling you?
I think, well, I guess you're referring to the gap to the top 2 now as much as just the top 6. I think if we're looking at like the actual promotion race, I expect Ipswich to finish in the top 2, who are currently 3 points ahead of us, which probably means it's actually Coventry who have to be caught if someone else is going to get in there. That's kind of, I'm sure if you asked like a bookmaker or data man, that's not what they say. But my feeling is that Ipswich will finish top 2, and it's Coventry who would need to be caught. So I think that's still a big ask, and we shouldn't forget that it's taken 4 straight wins, which is a very unlikely thing, to get us into a position where we're 4th. So, and lots of other teams have been 3rd and 4th in recent weeks, like Preston, Hull, Millwall, and then you lose a couple and you drop out. So for me, definitely the focus over the next few weeks should be trying to consolidate being inside the top 6 and like absolutely like bang in that race for the top 6. And then if a top 2 hunt comes with that, then that's great. But yeah, like the standards we've hit to get ourselves in this position are probably not going to be sustained till the end of the season. So I think for me, top 6 is still the aim. And I don't think you'll hear anyone from the club like talk about the top 2 until much later on in the season, when it's like on in sort of March or April. So yeah, but there's absolutely no one to be afraid of in the league. Like, I know it was a draw, but when we played Ipswich away, they were the only team where I thought like they're actually capable of carving through us. Like they're creating lots of chances, and we weren't creating much. Every other team we've played, I feel like Watford can mix it with them, particularly at home. So nothing to be frightened of, but I think I'm all for getting giddy. But like, I think top 2, it needs to continue for a good month or 2 more before top 2 becomes like the aim.
The Championship is mental. Like we're talking about top 2. I think if we lose tomorrow, we could be outside the top 6.
Yeah, that's kind of
so
exactly
like,
what I'm saying. Like,
the way that this league changes,
we could be back into 13th, 14th in 3 or 4 weeks' time, like very easily. So it's the league table is kind of still, as much as it's fun, kind of still an irrelevance, because you're one like mad moment in a game away from going 4th to 8th or something. I think Watford would have been 8th if they'd lost on New Year's Day. So yeah, it's about like staying in that pack, and I guess if you can go on a run, like trying to pull a little bit clear of that pack below.
I know it's still 2 games away, Adam, but because of purely how we are going to be in the top 6 race, we hope, or that's firmly where the expectation is now. Do you think we'll see big changes in the FA Cup? I know Javi's got that affinity with the competition, but the team's going to be knackered, I reckon, by then. I'd say after Hull, go away for a few days, play the academy, give them a few days off. Could you see quite a few changes being made against Bristol City?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I don't know exactly what the plans are, but I'd be very surprised if it's not 2 or 3 days off at least after Hull. Everyone back in next Wednesday or Thursday, and then sort of go from there. But it's the number of players who are first team players who haven't been playing much as well, like all those centre backs, like players like Semedo, Irankunda. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be probably won't be the academy, but like significant changes inside the first team squad. But I think as much as you're right, Javi has an affiliation with the FA Cup. Like that's not a big game. I don't think that will be treated like a big game. I think that'll be treated like I'd imagine it'll be looked at like a 2-week break after Hull between league games, and the FA Cup game. Just give your best shot.
Absolutely. It is January, which means the transfer window is open. So let's talk about that. Adam, like we saw reports yesterday that Marma's been linked to every club under the sun, especially Chelsea, who were just obviously Watford on steroids sometimes. They let go Maresca, who I thought was a really good coach. But do you think is there any likelihood that one of our big players could leave in Jan?
I'd be very surprised. And I think it would have to be an offer which is one where like every single supporter would have to say, yeah, fair enough, we had to accept that for someone like Marma to go. I mean, I saw 10 million quoted in a French report, and like I don't want this to get clipped up and for me to look stupid, but I'd be absolutely stunned if he went for anything like that kind of money. I think we're looking at the very least double that and probably more for him to be sold in January. Like they've never wanted to sell in January anyway, because it's a bit of a messy month where you can't necessarily guarantee getting the right replacement in. You're not really like putting your squad together. You're making little changes. So I don't think they want to do January. They don't particularly like doing January business in or out. And with the position and the form that the team are in now, yeah, I can't see it. And they're on. I think Scott Duxbury said it at the fans forum the other week. Valon said it to me the other week. They're all on the record. Like big players won't be going in January unless the offer is absolutely, I can't remember the phrase Valon used, like something crazy, I think he said. So yeah, I'm almost certain 10 million won't be happening, and I'm pretty confident no one will be going. But I suppose, I mean, it's the transfer window is mad, and you never know what kind of offer you might get, and they might think, well, we'd never get this offer again, but it would be something huge. And I don't think, like, of course, every time I see these reports about Marma, it seems to just be like every big club is watching him, which I'm sure is probably true. If he got that offer, I'm sure he'd be up for it. But like, it's definitely not a bad thing for him to stay at Watford and be playing regularly until the summer, keep growing his reputation. I think he's in a good spot. So the summer will certainly be a different conversation. But I'd be very shocked if anything happens this month.
Sam Lewons tweeted yesterday about Paris FC having an interest in Imran Louza, 15 mil. I know you've mentioned that you wouldn't be surprised if we sold Imi, as you like to call him. But I've actually enjoyed his form recently because he's kind of going under the radar at the right time while the window is open. But yeah. What's your feelings about potential outgoings in Jan?
Yeah, I felt well, I say reassured by what Valon Barami said and potentially what Duxbury said at the fans forum, but I fell for that trap too many times. I feel like listening to the stuff that they say. But I'm feeling more confident now. I did think that Louza would potentially look to leave, having been left out of the AFCON squad, and Morocco have a World Cup as well in the summer where there'll be another squad for. But I think there are some issues there with Imran Louza and the Morocco manager potentially not fancying him. So, yeah, I don't think Louza will leave for now. I'm not thinking about this now, but I do think irrespective of whether Watford get promoted or not, we could see 3 or 4 of our big players leaving in the summer. I talk about Marma, Louza, Shaftadze, and maybe 1 or 2 others as well could all go. But I think for January we should be all right, but no surprise to me to see that there's been a lot of interest in these players. And my only fear is that this could potentially unsettle 1 or 2 of them. Watford turning down a bid that they might be interested in, but the club just not entertaining it. So yeah, hoping that doesn't happen, but I am slightly worried about that.
I would say as well, like their view of the summer was that like their investment in inverted commas was not selling players. They could have probably made 30-40 million on star players in the summer, and they decided not to and sort of sold off squad players instead. So I, again, would be quite surprised if they been through all that in the summer only to sell players in January. So yeah, repeating myself now, but I think it would only be like a mad bid that would see any of them go.
Do you think this was always the plan, Adam, in terms of not selling? I know that we haven't really ever done too much business in January, but do you think, let's say we hadn't won these last 4 games in a row and we were stuck in the bottom half of the table or mid-table, do you think we could be looking at a very different January window with Luz potentially looking to go and Marmot looking potentially to go as well?
I don't think so. I mean, Vallon said all that stuff before any of these wins. And they, as I said, I don't think they like doing January business particularly. I don't think they see it as like a good time to buy or sell. So I'm sure it helps, and it might help the players themselves to be like, no, we're going to stay here and see this through now. But we've just said how close the league table is. Like, they wouldn't be giving up on promotion if it had only been 5 points rather than 12 from the last 4 games. So no, I mean, Gino made it clear last May, like he wanted to keep hold of key players and wanted this season to be a big season, and that's why he thought it was the best call to change coach as well, because he thinks a different coach could come in and have a more immediate impact. So I think the plan for this season has always been that these guys stay, and then if we don't go up, then I'm sure the summer will be a different conversation.
Adam, do you think there's likely to be any other outgoings? I think Puer Duomo, he needs to take a break from social media. Maybe he could be gone, but there has been like some talk about little Mendy as well. Is there anyone else you see could be leaving? James Morris?
James Morris. Well, I think the left back situation is that needs to be worked out, like for ins and outs. Because I think Wiley's fitness needs to be like established whether he is actually going to be ready to like contribute in the second half of the season. If he's not, then that probably means it's more likely James Morris stays, or potentially even a left back comes in. I think Morris is out of contract in the summer, so I'd imagine it's more likely he stays now until the summer and leaves then. But yeah, Duomo's definitely the one who, yeah, I mean, he's not anywhere near the squad. So I think he will be leaving. And yeah, there might be 1 or 2 others. I mean, Papi Mendy's played a bit more last few games, but that kind of connects to incomings as well, which I don't know if you want to come on to, but I think if there are incomings, midfield is probably the area they're looking at most strongly. If you look at, like, Loser is the one player who we're most reliant on. Like, if he was to, there's no kind of replacement for him if he was to pick up an injury. No one who does what he does in that position. And then Cipriano and Kayembe have been the only 2 Javi really wants to start next to him in midfield. So I think Mendy's future could potentially, I guess, rely on whether a midfielder comes in. And I think, again, Vallon said it himself, and from what I've sort of heard, midfield is the area they're sort of most looking at in terms of the need for a number, like a body, and potentially an upgrade to come in and either play alongside Loser or be able to replace him as well. Because if you look at other positions, of course, we can talk about the need for upgrades, but actually in terms of numbers, we're pretty well set. So centre forward, for example, like I've kind of always thought January is a terrible month to be trying to bring in like established first team players who are ready to come in, hit the ground running, particularly as a centre forward. Like, so we want someone who's fit, match fit, scoring goals, in form, championship pedigree, all of this stuff. But like, who is that player who wants to join Watford and who Watford can bring in this month? Like, that's quite a difficult thing to do. So I think a lot of other positions are nice to have, but midfield, yeah, with potentially, well, with Duomo going, and just the like few players that Javi has actually wanted to start in there, I think that's probably the position to watch out for.
Sam, what type of profile or what area do you think we need to strengthen in?
Yeah, I think there are 2 areas that do need to be looked at. I won't be shocked at all if we see Caleb Wiley's loan terminated. I'm not really sure the clauses on that, but I just don't think we can rely on him for that. And we've been lucky. I think Mark Bowler, I've said this before already, there's an argument that after Imran Loser, he's potentially been player of the season, or at least the most consistent player this season. He's been exceptional. So it won't surprise me if we see Wiley potentially go. And for that, I think the left back area does need to be addressed. I think Morris will be here till the end of the season. He's also an incredibly popular player in the dressing room, I think. So yeah, I think Morris will be here, and another left back could come in. But yeah, like Adam said, another central midfielder. I'd love us to get someone in that Ben Watson mould and the Matt Connolly mould as well. I know those don't grow on trees, and it's very difficult to identify a player like that in the market. But I think we just need someone with that bit of nous, that bit of know-how, experience in the Championship. If Carlos Sanchez is on a free, bring him home. But yeah, no, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind a player like that. I think we're fine. We're set on having those flair players in there. I think we're pretty set on having our first 11 that is good enough already to have a promotion push. I just think it's a case of getting that depth in, and as and when there is potentially a loser or injury, or Mark Bowler gets injured, that we do have the suitable reinforcements in place.
I don't know if I mentioned it last January, but I feel like someone like Harrison Reed at Fulham, who's not getting a lot of minutes, he was part of their promotion team. Someone like that would be really good. Adam, can you imagine that we'd go for that Ben Watson type experience, like Championship ready player? Do you think they might maybe essentially go in for someone like Sandy Lovrich, or we were linked to that other Italian guy? Is it Bouvet as well?
Well, but before Adam answers, sorry, I was listening to From the Rookery end last week, and maybe Adam, you can talk about this in terms of incomings, but the Georgian fella, I can't remember his name, but did he play a couple of minutes at the end of his league season so he could get a work permit to come?
Yeah, Ciccavani. Yeah, I think the plan was always with him for him to go out on loan and come back in January. Looks like it was a work permit technicality. So I think he might be around, but as we said, we've got so many players in those positions. I think he'd just be adding to squad numbers more than anything else. I think, I mean, Ben Watson's the example we always hold up, but he was actually he wasn't just brought in to be like an old head and guide the team through. Like, he was actually a really good player as well, and slotted straight into our first 11 and improved us. So he was kind of the dream January transfer in a way. Like, someone I was just talking about, where I think at the time his personal circumstances meant he wanted to move back towards London from Wigan, but he'd been playing Championship ready, capable of just slotting straight in. But that type of player is hard to find. So even, you mentioned Harrison Reed, but he's not been playing. So if he was to come in, someone like that was to come in, it's probably going to take a little while, and then it's suddenly the middle of February and other players are established in the team already. That's why it's so difficult to get it right in this month. My guess would be, and it's not particularly well informed, but I think the Udinese route is probably more likely than someone like Watson or Gosling. I think enough players and execs at Watford have talked about the adaptation from Udinese to Watford actually being not too difficult. Obviously, you move country, but the club's running quite similar ways, similar people around, and probably we could get a caliber of player from there who we wouldn't be able to get from other clubs. So someone like Lovrich or a midfielder from Udinese wouldn't surprise me. I think that's probably the most likely route and the easiest deal to do as well. Yeah, as I say, that's kind of that's speculation, really. That's a guess on my part, but it's easy to hold up the Ben Watson example, but that's kind of a difficult type of player to find.
There's also a report on New Year's Eve, I think it was, that Watford are interested in Udinese striker who's on loan at Napoli, Lorenzo Luca, who I think was one of the best strikers in Serie A last season. That seems very kind of far-fetched, and that would be a mental signing. Can you imagine that something like that would happen and we'd disrupt the kind of striker situation we've got at the moment?
I'd imagine if the striker who is, as I keep saying, available, fit, would score goals in the Championship, I think they're definitely open to it. I mean, the one thing that I always hear is they're very fluid. They're very open to doing any deal that comes along, if they think it would improve us. So they're definitely not ruling out signing a centre forward, because they're not ruling out signing in any position, really. Yeah, I mean, that sounds far-fetched to me. It's not one I've heard, and I think there's Premier League interest in him as well. He's on loan at Napoli. yeah, I'd be surprised if he ends up at Watford, but I also think it would probably have to be someone of a real high caliber to bring in a centre forward, because you say the numbers are there already. Now we're only playing one rather than two as well. Like, the need to have a fourth centre forward isn't as it's not as necessary. Yeah, it needs to be someone who makes the team better near enough straight away, and I think that's the case for most positions. Midfield, maybe in terms of numbers, they might that's probably more of a focus, but yeah, in other positions, it has to be someone who could come in and within a week or two be like an upgrade, I think. So if that player comes along in the centre forward position, he sounds like he would be that. But as we've said, does that player realistically exist? I'm not so sure.
That would be outrageous. And also shout out to Semedo, who I think has
he's doing really well.
Yeah, played a real part. He played that really nice. Maybe he should have slotted someone in against Birmingham. That really nice chest pass on the break, but he looks like a good character watching his interview after Norwich. So pleased for him. Before we wrap up, let's talk Hull then. Same team, same 11, Adam.
Yeah, I think I saw footage of Ngakia walking around the pitch, and I saw people saying it looked like he was hobbling, which he kind of did. But I was actually told before the game he'd just been rested like a lot of minutes and he was just sitting one out. So I think there's a chance he comes back in, certainly back into the reckoning. Other than that, yeah, I think it will be the same team. Because we're beyond the time now when there's going to be changes and rotation. Like, if he was going to do it, it would have been at Norwich and against Birmingham, and now we just got to try and roll through one more game.
I swear it used to be like an event, like at the start of the year, even the last couple of years, every time the starting 11 was announced, not knowing who was going to be playing, and now we've got the complete opposite, which I think is a good thing, getting that consistency. Sam, how are you feeling about going to Hull? How are you feeling about the game? Because they've been really good this season. They're the third top goal scorers. I think are they on points with us? But it's a fourth versus fifth clash in the Championship. Ollie McBurney's been on fire. Ryan Giles has been really good for them. There's good vibes up there. Are you confident? And give us a prediction.
Yeah, they're the form team, I think, alongside us, although they did lose their last game against Stoke.
It was at home as well, wasn't it?
They lost at home, yeah. And Stoke picked up a couple of big injuries in that game as well. Their goalkeeper got injured and one of their other players got injured as well, which I suppose is going to impact the race as well, though I think Stoke's slightly outside the places now as well. But in terms of Hull, yeah, I mean, a difficult game going there, particularly with the number of games. It's a big ask for us to go 5 in a row now. But I think it would be another huge statement if we were to pick something up. And with the expectation as well that we're probably going to go unchanged, or maybe we'll just see a change in the right back spot. Yeah, it's going to be a big ask, I think. But I think you have to be confident at the moment with Watford. Yeah, early start for me tomorrow. It's going to be freezing. I think I've done Hull away twice. The one I missed in the last 3 years was Wesley Hoot's halfway line goal, unfortunately. Last year I actually did it when I came back from travelling. Within 24, 48 hours, I'd gone from being in Sydney to the MKM. Is it the MKM Stadium? Is that what it's called now?
Yeah. What was the result of that game?
Rocco Vata got a late equaliser and we drew 1-1. Yeah. The other time I went there was just bleak. I think Ozan Tufan scored a penalty for them to win 1-0. And it was oh God. And it was absolutely awful, that game of football, under Chris Wilder, I want to say it was. So hoping for something better tomorrow.
Give us your prediction then.
I'll take a point tomorrow, with how tired I imagine the team is, and it's a tough place to go. I'll go 1-1.
How are you feeling, Adam?
Just looking at the forecast, 1 degree. It's not great, is it?
Scarce, the lot.
Yeah, the lot. I'm pretty confident. Like, I think Hull are, they lost at home to Stoke the other day, didn't they?
They did beat Middlesbrough away, I think, the game before that.
Yeah. No, I think I'd back us to win. Like everybody's playing well, confident. I think the short turnaround now actually suits us. Like, just keep rolling, keep the momentum going. Silly goals seem to have dried up at the other end. So yeah, I will go for a 2-1 win.
I'm trying to think I'm trying to think what Jacob would predict because I've got some ground to make up. So I'll probably go for a 2-1 defeat, knowing that I don't care if we lose. And like I said, Sam's got something special lined up if we do win. So look out for the socials for that one. We'll wrap it up there. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks so much, Adam, for joining us, mate. Thanks for all the coverage as well this season. I hope you have a more chilled out Jan, maybe than you did in the summer. But yeah, make sure to check out Adam's video after the game. We've really been enjoying those. And keep across. What else should we be plugging, Sam?
But yeah, no, Charlie mentioned it at the top of the video there, but we did our donations this week for the Watford's December, which I think was our most goals scored in a month so far this season, and not a bad start so far as well with 3 goals in January. So there'll be a link in the description as well if you want to join in with donating £1 for every goal that Watford score this season.
Have we got any January sales for the Watford Observer subscription or anything you want to plug, Adam?
Put me on the spot. I'm sure there will be. Check it out on the site.
Bosses are fuming. All right, thanks so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Up the Hornets, and let's make it 5 in a row, eh? Come on, you Horns.